All right, look, if you're not happy with your sales performance and you feel like you could be selling more, doing better, making more money, give me just a few minutes and I'm going to run you through a few things that I think can help you. Now, look, I've trained thousands of salespeople all over the world, and one of the things I hear all the time is people are tired of just being told to, follow the scripts or grind it out and work more deals. See, that just doesn't work. That's not sales. So, think about it. If scripts worked, then every salesperson would be filthy rich. All you have to do is memorize a script and your sales numbers go through the roof. Everybody buys from you? Of course not. That's not how you truly sell. Sales is and always has been a human-to-human interaction. It's always about the human side of things. And so, the old school sales techniques and trainings and tips and all these strategies that exist, a lot of the stuff out there tells you to just remember the script, memorize the script, or it tells you, hey, follow these 5 steps and you'll magically sell more deals. The thing is, it misses the most important part of selling, which is the genuine interaction you have with your prospect. Let me take a quick step back here, because before I dive into some of the things that you can do to start increasing your performance, I just want to make sure it's really clear to you where this all came from and how it got started. So I started, myself, I was a, average salesperson, just, working as hard as I could, trying to do my best to sell as much as I could. But, early in my career, I found myself kind of struggling like everyone else. Sure, I'd have some great months, and then, other months would be average or below average. And so, I was kind of struggling with that same old, roller coaster of sales, the ups and the downs, and I didn't have a lot of consistency. And, it wasn't until I started going through some of the company-provided trainings that I realized, we're all going through these trainings together, and all of us are struggling with similar challenges in terms of performance and consistency. So I started looking at what is it we're being taught to do. And again, there's a lot of the scripts. There's a lot of the follow these magic psychology tricks and techniques. So I just decided, let me take a step back here. Let me forget all of the scripts. Let me forget all the tricks. And let me go into this next sales conversation and just have a conversation with somebody. Let me just see how it goes. At this point, when I first started this, what is now the pitchless selling methodology framework, ultimately the training program that we're talking about, it all just started with me getting frustrated with inconsistencies and the same old training over and over again. And I thought, let me just have a conversation and see what comes of it. And that is when everything changed. And so what I realized was people, they'd rather talk to a human. They don't want to talk to a sales robot, especially nowadays, right? They've all heard it before. They've heard the same pitches. They've heard the same, high pressure tactics and techniques. They've heard the psychology tricks. They've heard the scripts. If you sound like every other salesperson, prospects aren't going to have any time for that. They're going to immediately put up their guard. They're going to shut you down. And now all of a sudden, you sabotaged your own deal. So when I first started using what's now the pitchless selling formula, all I did was start with a genuine conversation. What I realize now is there are a lot of different things you can do along the way inside of that conversation, inside of having an organic, genuine conversation with someone. There are a lot of things that you can do to help the prospect along the way. And when you're helping the prospect along the way, what's inevitably going to happen is you're going to help yourself. Hey, it's Josh. Sorry to interrupt. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. I just wanted to come on here really quick and let you know, stay tuned to the rest of the video. There's some stuff that we're going to go through here that I think you can take and apply to your conversations right away to help you improve your performance. I also want to let you know that I've included some more information in the description here. There's a link in the description that you can click if you want to learn some of the ways that we're helping salespeople add 5 and in some cases 6 figures to their commission checks. So if you want to learn more about the ways that we're doing this and some of the details of the pitchless selling training programs and coaching programs that are available, please click the link in the description, and I look forward to seeing you there. All right, that's it for now. Enjoy the rest of the video. So let me break down just a few of the important pieces of the pitchless selling method for you. And I think there's some of these things that you could even start trying and using maybe as soon as tomorrow on your next sales conversation. So first of all, what's most important, this is fundamental to the pitchless selling formula, okay? First and foremost, sales is not about your product or your service. It is not about your features, your benefits, your key differentiators, or how you're better than everyone else. It's not about that. Sales is all about the outcomes and results that you're going to deliver for your prospect. Okay? People don't care what you're selling. They care what it's going to do for them. So that's sort of the end result. Okay? You got to focus on a few different things before you can actually get to the end. How do we get to the end? How do we know what they're going to care about? How do we know about the results we can deliver? So the first thing I want to talk to you about is the importance of a discovery. You need to be able to have a genuine conversation where you're not trying to sell them. You're not focused on yourself. You're not focused on your product or service. You're not focused on making the sale. You're having a genuine conversation with that prospect about their current situation. You want to learn about them personally. You want to learn about their business. You want to learn where they're at right now. And this is just a standard discovery. So you're going to ask short, open-ended questions, all with the intention of getting them to open up a little bit. You want to get as much information as possible. And most importantly, you want to make it really clear early on that you're genuinely interested in learning about them. You're genuinely curious. Don't use leading questions. Don't try to set them up. And definitely don't talk about yourself at the very beginning or early in the conversation. Of course, if you have to make an introduction or it's the first time you're ever talking to someone and they, especially if it's cold, they don't know who you are or what you're doing, of course, you can do a small introduction so they at least know who they are. But when you actually get into the real meat of the sales conversation, the very beginning part, the discovery piece, is not about you in any way. It is all about them. And so when you're in this discovery, what's really, really important is you need to start asking questions in a way that will ultimately get you to understand some of the problems, some of the challenges, the issues they have, and the needs that they have. See, the thing that motivates people to make a change or to buy something, it isn't, hey, wow, I got this really cool, this is like a neat product, and I got this limited time discount. It's not the sort of tricks and gimmicks. The thing that makes people actually buy is they can see what their life looks like if they make a change or if they buy that thing. Even better, if they can see that they have a big gap from where they are right now to where they could be. So that's the point of the discovery. You want to start building that gap. So when I told you that I first started developing this pitchless selling method, I told you it all started with a conversation. So I was relatively new at the company that I was working with, the sales role that I had. And so it was easy for me to go into the conversation genuinely curious. I had some knowledge of the product. I understood what we were selling, but I didn't have a ton of sales conversations under my belt to where, I'd heard the same things over and over again, or I felt like I knew what the prospects were going to say. So the reason I'm telling you that is I want you to think about my mindset when I was going into that conversation, because I wasn't sort of tainted by those previous conversations or all this past experience. I had fresh eyes. I could be genuinely curious. And I thought, look, let me forget all the scripts and everything. Let me just be genuinely curious, because at a minimum, my thought was, I'll learn something, right? Maybe I'll learn about the prospects that I'm talking to. Maybe I'll learn some things that they're dealing with that I can use in the future on other conversations. Now, obviously it turned out way better than that. But again, that was the mindset that I had when I was going into that conversation. It was all about being genuinely curious. So that's what I want you to do. In the discovery, I want you to just, again, don't jump into your pitch. Don't worry about you. Don't talk about yourself. Start with genuine curiosity. Show them that you care, that you're genuinely trying to understand them. And then as you're doing that, you're going to learn about challenges, problems, needs, the things that they have. And you can also learn about what the future might look like for them if they weren't struggling with those problems, those challenges, those pains. And now all of a sudden, you've naturally created a gap from where they are to where they could be. This single thing will make it so much easier for you to sell, especially if you can deliver that after result for them. So the next part of this pitchless selling process that I think is really important, again, some stuff that you could probably use right away, is the presentation piece. Now, we call this a presentation. We don't call it a pitch. This is very important. Heck, the name of the program, the name of the method is pitchless selling. It's because salespeople need to ditch the pitch. It's not about pitching your product or service. It's about solving problems, fulfilling needs. It's about presenting your product or service in a way that feels customized and specific to every individual prospect. This was a huge change for me. I told you, I knew I was onto something right away when I made that shift. I didn't know it was going to be the pitchless selling formula. I just thought it was, some interesting way to go about it. I told you there were some other things I learned along the way as I continued diving deeper into it. This was the next thing I realized. When I'm presenting my service, here's the thing. It's easy to, again, use the script. It's easy to kind of fall into the trap of saying the same things over and over again because they've worked with other people, or, again, maybe you're really, really good at something. Maybe your product or service is exceptional at something and it's your big differentiator. Remember what I said a little bit ago. People don't care about your product or service. They care what it will do for them. So let me maybe tell you, paint a little bit of a picture here, tell you a little bit of a story, or maybe a way to think about this. We are very much against, in the context of, general sales, face-to-face conversations, phone sales, those types of things. We're generally against, we call it infomercial selling. And so if you think about an infomercial, right, it's on TV, it's this, sales pitch where we got someone up, they're presenting a product. Now, they don't have the ability to talk to you through the screen. They're just on a TV. They don't know what you need. They don't know what you care about. They don't know what parts of their product to talk about that'll resonate with you. So what do? It's, hey, this thing does this, and it does this, and it does this, but wait, there's more. It also does this, and it's really cool if you use it this way. And they just throw everything at you. And so what inevitably happens there is, look, they're closing a very, very small percentage of people who watch that, who watch that infomercial, who watch that ad. The only people that are closing is someone that, one of the things that they said, it kind of clicks with, right? But what happens most of the time is people get bored by it, or they tune it out because they think, oh, this isn't relevant for me, or like, I don't need that, or I don't have that problem. And all of a sudden you shut your mind off. And so what's funny about this is, of all the salespeople that I've ever trained, especially when we work with companies and train entire sales teams, one of the most common things we see is a lot of salespeople have their pitch. They have this same way of presenting their product or service, and they do it it's almost a cookie cutter way every single time. Worse yet, the old slides, right? If you're doing like an online demonstration or some sort of sales call where you're screen sharing and you've got slides to go through, and it's like, this is the same presentation every single time. But the problem is every prospect is different. So sure, there are some things that your product is really good at. Sure, there are going to be some things that you're going to talk about most of the time because those are the features of the product. I get that, you're going to have to talk about your product or your service. That's just the way it is. But you need to be able to present them in a way that feels customized to that individual prospect. Most importantly, don't just feature dump on them. Don't just talk about every aspect of whatever it is you're selling because you think that's what you should do. You need to present in a way that answers problems, solves challenges, fulfills needs for every individual prospect. That's going to be different, right? And so that's what I mean about this sort of customized presentation. It can't be the same scripted presentation over and over again, because if you do that, inevitably, you're going to start talking about something that someone doesn't care about, and they're going to tune you out. Or worse yet, and this is something we've seen, you're going to create the perception with that prospect that your product or service isn't a good fit. So now, think about that for a second. You're a salesperson. Your job's to sell. But because of your sales process being flawed, and it's not your fault, this is pretty much how it's always been taught. But because your sales process is flawed, now, without even knowing it, you're talking people out of buying. And so this leads to a ton of different objections, people tuning out, not caring. You can tell when people just get disinterested. And so now you're making things harder on yourself. But imagine in a world if instead of doing that, instead of doing the same script, the same pitch over and over again and just talking about your product or service all the time, imagine if you presented that conversation like this. Hey, let me learn about you. Let me figure out what you need. You uncover a couple of problems. And then when you go to your presentation, you say, look, so I thought there was something really interesting that you'd mentioned. You mentioned you're struggling with this problem. One of the really cool things about what we do here is we have this, and it solves that problem in this way. Does that make sense? Does that seem like it would solve the problem for you? Yeah. Okay, cool. Now you mentioned something else I thought was really interesting. You said you really were hoping that you could get this, or you really want this thing. I got some good news for you. I got to show you this. This is one of the most popular things about what we do here. One of the things that really sets us apart and things that people love. Check this out. Boom. Does that address that? So now I'm presenting in a way that feels customized to that individual prospect. Most importantly, I'm not talking about things. I'm not just pitching things that they don't care about. I'm going to avoid. I'm literally telling you, don't talk about everything. You need to avoid just talking about absolutely everything you do or everything you have. Even if most people like this specific feature or this specific thing, but you haven't created a need for it, or you haven't built a gap around it or something like that in the discovery, don't present it. Now, you can always take a pause if there's something that you realize, I want to talk about this, but we didn't really uncover a need for it. You can always take a pause, ask a quick question about it, see if there's a need there. If there is, great, present it. If there's not, don't. Move on. So hopefully now you're starting to see how the pitchless selling methodology, the framework and the method of selling in this way really kind of shifts the narrative. It's not about selling. It's about having real, genuine conversations with prospects, figuring out what they need and how you can help them, and then presenting your product or service as the thing that is the best possible fit to help them achieve their goals. Hey there, it's me again. Sorry to interrupt one last time here. I just wanted to say if you are enjoying the video, please go ahead and drop a like and a comment if you want to. But most importantly, I would just ask you to go ahead and share this with someone that you think would find it helpful as well. We're on a mission to help people change their lives and reach levels of success that they've never seen before. And one of the best ways to do that, of course, is to have someone that they know or trust send them something that's helpful. I know I love getting videos from friends and family that they think I'll like. So maybe you would consider doing the same thing and help someone else out. So that's it for now. And don't forget, click the link in the description if you want to learn more about our training and coaching programs. All right, enjoy the rest of the video. Be great. So look, I think at the end of the day, if you are frustrated by your performance, you do feel like there's more out there for you. First of all, start using some of the stuff I just gave you. Try it out. Try to shift your conversation and start doing things in the way that I mentioned and see what you get from it. But more importantly, if you're serious about wanting to get better and you know there's more out there for you, it's not just going to magically happen. And it's certainly not going to just magically happen by you doing the same thing over and over again, the same stuff that's been trained for years. The only way that I became the top performer that I was and broke company records at multiple companies was because I was different. I was selling in a different way, and I finally said enough's enough. You can do the exact same thing.